Johnny Depp, from Hollywood royalty to the edge of collapse. 1. Early struggles before stardom. How Johnny Depp entered Hollywood and fought for recognition. Before the red carpets, before the screaming fans, before the pirate costumes and billion-dollar franchises, there was just a boy trying to escape chaos. Johnny Depp was born in 1963 in Owensboro, Kentucky, but stability was something he rarely knew. His family moved constantly, more than 20 times before he was even a teenager. Every new house meant a new school. Every school meant new faces, and every new face meant starting over. For a young boy, that kind of instability leaves marks. Home wasn't peaceful. His childhood has been described as turbulent, filled with tension and emotional strain. By the age of 12, he found refuge not in people, but in music. A guitar became his escape. Music didn't judge him. Music didn't move away. Music didn't argue. By 16, he dropped out of high school to pursue rock and roll. He joined garage bands, played in small venues, lived the struggling musician's life, broke, hopeful, restless. Hollywood wasn't even part of the plan. In fact, acting happened almost by accident. Through a connection with actor Nicolas Cage, Johnny was encouraged to audition for a film role. He landed a part in A Nightmare on Elm Street. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't groundbreaking, but it was a beginning. Still, he didn't feel like he belonged. The late 1980s pushed him into teen idol status with the TV series 21 Jump Street. Overnight, he became a heartthrob. Posters on bedroom walls, magazine covers, teen fan hysteria. But here's the twist. He hated it. Johnny Depp didn't want to be a pretty face. He wanted to be taken seriously. He felt trapped by his own fame, boxed into an image that didn't represent who he was inside. So he did something risky. Instead of chasing commercial success, he began choosing strange, unconventional roles. Roles that confused studios, roles that scared producers, roles that no typical leading man would dare accept. And that decision would change everything. 2. Breakthrough role that changed everything. The impact of Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl on his career. Before the pirate, before the swagger, before the eyeliner and the slurred genius of Captain Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp had already built a reputation as a different actor. His collaboration with visionary director Tim Burton began shaping his artistic identity. Together, they created cinematic outsiders, characters that felt lonely, misunderstood, beautifully strange. One of the most powerful examples? Edward Scissorhands, a man with blades for hands, a creature too gentle for the world he lived in. It was poetic, emotional, quietly devastating, and audiences connected deeply. But despite critical acclaim, Johnny was still not considered a typical box office king. He was respected, but not dominant. That changed in 2003. When Disney announced a movie based on a theme park ride, expectations were low. A pirate movie based on an amusement attraction? It sounded risky, maybe even foolish. Then Johnny Depp walked onto the set as Captain Jack Sparrow, and everything shifted. He made bold choices. He played the pirate as eccentric, unpredictable, slightly intoxicated, almost cartoonish, yet strangely intelligent. Studio executives were reportedly nervous. Was he ruining the film? Was he mocking the role? Was he too weird? But when the film released, the world answered with thunderous applause. Audiences were mesmerized. Children imitated him. Adults quoted him. Critics praised him. He earned an Academy Award nomination for a pirate. That had never happened before. The movie became a global phenomenon. Sequels followed, billions of dollars in revenue. Johnny Depp was no longer the strange indie actor. He was a global superstar, one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. But here's the question success rarely asks. What happens when you become too big to fail? Because sometimes that's when the fall becomes the hardest. 3. Becoming one of Hollywood's highest paid stars. Global fame, billion-dollar franchises, and the weight of expectations. By the mid-2000s, Johnny Depp was everywhere. Box office charts, award ceremonies, magazine covers, luxury brand campaigns. He wasn't just successful, he was unstoppable. Studios trusted him to carry massive budgets, fans trusted him to deliver unforgettable performances, and directors admired his dedication to character transformation. His continued collaborations with Tim Burton reinforced his brand as the king of eccentric brilliance. Dark shadows, gothic fantasy, whimsical sadness. His characters felt layered, wounded, human. He wasn't your typical action hero, he was something else, and audiences loved that. But fame has a strange effect. It doesn't just amplify talent, it amplifies everything. His earnings skyrocketed, reportedly hundreds of millions across franchises. With that wealth came a lifestyle few could even imagine. Private islands, multiple properties around the world, expensive art collections, lavish spending habits. Friends described him as generous, sometimes excessively so. He supported family members, friends, staff, musicians. But behind the glamour, cracks were beginning to form. Financial disputes emerged with former managers, lawsuits were filed, accusations flew back and forth, mismanagement versus reckless spending. Headlines grew sharper, more critical, more suspicious. And then came the relationship that would transform headlines permanently. His marriage to Amber Heard. At first, it seemed romantic. Two actors, two beautiful lives intertwined. But what started as love would soon become something far more destructive, and the world would be watching closely. 4. The dark side of fame, when success becomes heavy. At the height of his power, Johnny Depp looked untouchable. But fame doesn't remove pain, it magnifies it. Behind the pirate costumes and flashing cameras, there were whispers, stories of late arrivals to sets, reports of tension, articles discussing spending habits that sounded almost mythical, millions on properties, art, wine collections, staff, private travel. To the public, it looked excessive. To Johnny, according to those close to him, it was freedom. After a childhood filled with instability, wealth felt like security. He could buy houses not just for himself, but for his family. He could help friends. He could create a world where no one around him had to struggle the way he once did. But generosity and chaos can sometimes look the same from the outside. Financial disputes later surfaced between him and former managers. Lawsuits were filed. Accusations flew back and forth, mismanagement versus reckless spending. Headlines grew sharper, more critical, more suspicious. And then came the relationship that would transform headlines permanently. His marriage to Amber Heard. At first, it seemed romantic. Two actors, two beautiful lives intertwined. But what started as love would soon become something far more destructive, and the world would be watching closely. 4. The dark side of fame, when success becomes heavy. At the height of his power, Johnny Depp looked untouchable. But fame doesn't remove pain, it magnifies it. Behind the pirate costumes and flashing cameras, there were whispers, stories of late arrivals to sets, reports of tension, articles discussing spending habits that sounded almost mythical, millions on properties, art, wine collections, staff, private travel. To the public, it looked excessive. To Johnny, according to those close to him, it was freedom. After a childhood filled with instability, wealth felt like security. He could buy houses not just for himself, but for his family. He could help friends. He could create a world where no one around him had to struggle the way he once did. But generosity and chaos can sometimes look the same from the outside. Financial disputes later surfaced between him and former managers. Lawsuits were filed. Accusations flew back and forth. Mismanagement versus reckless spending. Headlines grew sharper, more critical, more suspicious. And then came the relationship that would turn whispers into explosions. When Johnny Depp married Amber Heard, the world saw glamour, red carpet smiles, beautiful photographs, a power couple. But behind closed doors, something was unraveling. In 2016, Amber Heard filed for divorce and sought a restraining order alleging abuse. The news spread like wildfire. Within hours, the narrative shifted. The charming pirate was now accused of being something darker. And in Hollywood, accusations can be enough. Studios don't wait for clarity, they protect investments. Suddenly, the tone changed. Interviews felt different. Press coverage turned cold. The public, confused and divided, began choosing sides. Some believed the accusations immediately. Others defended him fiercely. But regardless of belief, one truth became clear. His image was cracking. And once an image cracks in Hollywood, the sound echoes everywhere. 5. The legal battle that shook Hollywood. A courtroom turned global stage. When Johnny Depp filed a defamation lawsuit over an op-ed written by Amber Heard, it wasn't just a legal strategy, it was a gamble. He was inviting the world inside. Most celebrities settle quietly. They protect privacy. They avoid spectacle. Johnny chose the opposite. The trial became public. Cameras were allowed in the courtroom, and suddenly millions were watching live every single day. It wasn't just America, it was global. TikTok clips, YouTube breakdowns, Twitter debates, every facial expression analyzed, every pause dissected, every tear questioned. The courtroom felt less like a legal proceeding and more like a cultural moment. Johnny testified for hours. He spoke about his childhood, about substance use, about volatile arguments, about feeling betrayed. Amber Heard testified as well, sharing her version of events, detailing allegations and emotional trauma. The atmosphere was tense, painful, uncomfortable. It wasn't entertainment, it was human conflict under a microscope. For Johnny, this wasn't just about money, it was about identity. He claimed the accusations destroyed his career, that even before a verdict, he had already been judged. And in many ways, he had. He had lost roles, lost contracts, lost trust. During testimony, he said something that resonated deeply with supporters, that once allegations are made, even if unproven, they live forever. And that fear of being permanently defined by accusation became the emotional center of the trial. But the internet had turned it into something else. Memes were created, sound bites went viral, moments were clipped and edited for entertainment, and beneath the laughter and hashtags, there were two people reliving deeply personal, painful experiences. It raised uncomfortable questions. When does justice become spectacle? When does curiosity become intrusion? And when does public opinion replace patience? After weeks of testimony, the jury delivered a verdict in 2022. It found that certain statements in the op-ed were defamatory toward Johnny Depp. Damages were awarded. Supporters celebrated loudly. Outside the courthouse, cheers erupted. But victory didn't feel like celebration. It felt complicated. Because even in winning, something irreversible had happened. The trial had preserved every detail online forever. The pain, the recordings, the arguments, the humiliation. No matter what the verdict, the world had seen too much. And once the world sees behind the curtain, it never forgets. 6. Career fallout and industry backlash when Hollywood steps away. Before the trial even concluded, consequences were already unfolding. Johnny Depp was asked to step down from the Fantastic Beasts franchise. He was replaced, scenes reshot, his presence erased from a massive cinematic universe. For an actor of his stature, this was unprecedented. He had built billion-dollar franchises, and now studios were distancing themselves. The most painful loss, perhaps, was his separation from the Pirates franchise, the very role that transformed him into a global icon. Reports surfaced that Disney was moving forward without him. Fans were outraged. Petitions gathered millions of signatures. But Hollywood is a business first.
Studios calculate risk, and controversy carries financial uncertainty. For Johnny, it wasn't just about losing roles, it was about watching characters he had poured himself into continue without him. Imagine creating Captain Jack Sparrow, breathing life into him, transforming him into a cultural symbol, and then being told that the ship would sail on without you. That kind of loss isn't financial, it's personal. During testimony, Johnny stated that even if Disney offered him hundreds of millions, he wouldn't return. Was it pride, pain, principle? Maybe all three. But what became undeniable was this: his relationship with Hollywood had changed. The industry that once celebrated him now kept distance. And yet, something unexpected happened. Public support grew, not universally, but powerfully. Fans saw vulnerability. They saw a man who looked tired, not monstrous, broken, not monstral. Online communities formed in support. People lined up outside courtrooms. Some argued it was about men's rights. Others saw it as a stand against false narratives. Still others believed the truth was more complex than either side admitted. But the emotional tide had shifted from villain to possible victim. And in that shift, curiosity grew. Because Americans love redemption stories. They love comeback arcs. They believe in second chances. The question was no longer, is his career over? The question became, can he rebuild? 7. Public opinion, from villain to victim. How social media and public perception shifted during the trials.
The courtroom may have had walls, judges, and juries, but the real battlefield was online. Every day, millions of eyes followed every word, every gesture, every inflection. Twitter threads exploded. TikTok videos dissected his expressions. YouTube channels replayed moments frame by frame. Memes spread like wildfire. Suddenly, Johnny Depp, the once untouchable Hollywood king, became a mirror for society's own obsession with judgment. People didn't just watch the trial, they participated in it. At first, public opinion leaned toward vilification. Headlines screamed accusations, and the court of social media delivered swift condemnation. But as the trial progressed, narratives shifted. People began to see the human side of the story. The exhausted man answering questions carefully, his voice steady but emotional. The vulnerability he displayed, sharing memories of a childhood marked by instability and pain. The emotional toll of losing work, of being separated from his children, of having his entire life analyzed publicly. Fans started to rally. Hashtags like "Justice for Johnny" emerged. Communities formed not to attack, but to empathize. Slowly, the public began questioning, had he been painted as a villain unfairly? The trial highlighted something profound. Fame amplifies perception, but it doesn't define reality. People are quick to judge, but truth often exists in nuance, in the spaces between headlines and soundbites. For Johnny, it was a bittersweet revelation. The court ruled partially in his favor, but the journey wasn't about winning or losing in public opinion. It was about reclaiming a sense of self, a narrative that he could call his own. 8. Redemption and comeback. Winning the defamation case and slowly rebuilding his career. Victory in court was monumental, but it didn't erase the pain, the uncertainty, or the public scrutiny. For many, redemption meant a return to movie sets, awards, and red carpets. But Johnny's comeback has been quieter, more deliberate. He has turned to projects that resonate personally. Independent films, music, art, and creative endeavors that reflect his authentic self. The pirate isn't gone, but Johnny Depp himself is reclaiming the narrative. Fans continue to support him, not out of fandom alone, but out of respect for resilience. There's something universally inspiring about a man who faced career collapse, legal battles, and public judgment, and still found the courage to fight. Redemption isn't always about applause. Sometimes it's about standing in front of the world and saying, "I am not defined by your verdicts." Johnny Depp's journey reminds us that even when life feels broken, resilience can transform humiliation into strength. 9. The real lesson. Fame is fragile. How personal life can redefine professional legacy. Johnny Depp's story isn't unique in Hollywood. Fame is a double-edged sword. It brings fortune, admiration, and influence, but it also magnifies mistakes, missteps, and personal struggles. What his life shows us is simple, yet profound. No matter how much success you achieve, personal choices, relationships, and actions shape how the world remembers you. Legacy is not just built by talent or wealth, it's also defined by character and human frailty. For ordinary people, the lesson resonates deeply. Be mindful of how your personal life influences your professional reputation. Choices ripple outwards in ways we often cannot foresee. And yet, just as fragility exists, so does the power of redemption, resilience, and courage. 10. Final thought. Legacy beyond controversy. Will Johnny Depp be remembered for his talent or his turmoil? In 50 years, when people look back at Hollywood in the early 2000s, what will they see? Will they see Captain Jack Sparrow, the eccentric outsider, the brilliant actor who transformed fantasy into art? Or will they see the courtroom drama, the scandals, the headlines? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between, because human beings are complex and legacies aren't simple. Johnny Depp's story is a mirror. It reflects both the beauty of creativity and the danger of public scrutiny. It reminds us that talent can be timeless, but reputation is delicate. That mistakes can be magnified, but redemption is always possible. And in the end, maybe that's what makes his story so emotional, so universal, and so unforgettable. A man who soared higher than most, fell harder than many, and rose again, not just as a celebrity, but as a human being whose life reminds us all that resilience is the truest form of courage. Because in every story of fame, fortune, and fall, one thing remains clear. It's not just the triumphs we remember, but how we rise after the fall.